telepathy, and astral sex. So now a new phase began. At this point, I was completely clueless and had really never heard of the Twinflame's subject. But now a few things were about to happen that made me suspicious that something very special was happening in my life. In the meantime, I had entered Elaine's number into my cell phone, and I had also accepted, or had to accept, that I could feel her. In my head, however, it was all still hypothetically. I knew it was possible that all of this was real, but part of me thought it was entirely possible that I was imagining it and that I was the victim of some psychosis, albeit a very pleasant one. So purely analytically, I decided to continue monitoring the issue. Of course, I hadn't allowed myself to consider a sexual relationship with Elaine. That was out of the question for me. First, I had never cheated on any of my partners, and I wanted to keep it that way. And secondly, my feelings for Elaine were too deep to allow me to use her superficially to satisfy my urges. Although my urges, of course, had nothing against it, since I had the feeling of being underfucked ever since our daughter was born. Unfortunately, my wife's libido was diametrically opposed to mine. We also slept separately. Our sleeping habits were completely different from each other's. I was an old and she was a large. I only got really active at night, mostly until 2 a.m. Jenny usually slept between 8 and 9 p.m. Not least because she had to get out of bed early every morning in her job in nursing. But love and understanding have always existed between us. I will make it short now and won't beat more around the bush. I had a lot of time alone in bed before falling asleep, and I had made it my mission not to think about Elaine sexually at all. Until one night, I had a sexual experience that I can only describe as astral sex. That was really wonderful. I won't even try to describe it any further. Just this much. You don't need to touch yourself. One has the feeling of being touched, if you know what I mean. There was some kind of tight, colorful, oscillating ball of energy around and sexually uniting with me. That was mind-blowing. I said to myself, if this has anything to do with Elaine, you will bump into her in the morning. When I drove my daughter to school the next morning, we crossed each other's ways in our cars. I had the feeling again like with the Easter egg falling out of my pants. A few days later, I had the same experience at night, asked the same question to my friend the universe, and I got the same answer. She crossed my path again in the morning. By the way, that didn't happen all the time. Just in these situations. When something like this happens to you, you quickly feel like your life is a movie. Welcome to the show. During this time, I had sporadic contact with her via Messenger. No deep communication, but at least she constantly frequented my status messages, and I just couldn't openly communicate with her about my feelings. That was incredibly difficult for me. I didn't want to hurt my wife, nor did I want to block Elaine's life or jeopardize her existing love relationship with her boyfriend. It was all too tricky for me to drop the visor. In the event that she might end up thinking the same way I did, I just decided to put messages in my status that she would unmistakably understand if she felt like me. I know this is kind of creepy, and under normal circumstances I'm a completely straightforward guy, but these circumstances were no longer normal at all. My fabric of reality cracked dramatically when I realized that there seemed to be a telepathic connection between us. She was usually the first one in my social community to look up my status message. Also at 3:30 in the morning, I decided to do another test. If there was this connection between us, then she would be the first one to look at this next message, sometime at night. 4:30. It happened. Status uploaded. Elaine checks it in the first minute. Everything just happened with her. I had never experienced that before with no other human, and I had really experienced a lot.